Hello and welcome to the United Stand. Zidane waiting on Manchester United. This wasn't the show I was going to talk about, actually. I was going to talk about Scholes and Giggs backing Mourinho, but then I saw something that I should have picked this up a couple of days ago. I don't know why not, so I apologise. But the reality is that Fabrizio Romano, who is linked with Di Marzio, and Liverpool fans will know a lot about him because he, throughout the summer, when Liverpool actually were doing transfer business and Manchester United weren't, he had his finger on the pulse with a lot of the signings that they were doing, like Di Marzio has had in the past with Manchester United. Wrote in Calcio Mercato in Italy, picked up by a bit of the English press, but not major. In fact, the Daily Star picked it up, which is not a very credible outlet in England, but the source they've got there from Calcio Mercato and Fabrizio Romano is very good. And what he's basically saying is that there has been offers on the table for Zidane. Quite substantial money offers in, I think, United Arab UAE. Also, potentially a director of football role at Juventus. But Zidane is wanting a manager's job, and PSG may be coming available at some point in the future. But apparently he's interested in England, and Manchester United is a job that obviously is in England, and he wants to get his Champions League back. So that I find that very interesting, because there's a lot of people thinking, well, we can't get Zidane. But the reality is, the real attraction with Zidane is that he's available. He's available, isn't he? So, and look, we're going to talk about Mourinho in a moment. But if Manchester United sack Mourinho, and that's a big if, there is this talk. And I was talking to Drawty Devil today, and he was on about Eddie Howe at Bournemouth. Some people talk about Pochettino, but Zidane. I mean, come on, he's won 3 Champions Leagues. Juventus would love him to be at their club. PSG would take him, like I say. Real Madrid didn't want him to go. And we're Man United fans going, well, I don't know about Zidane. I mean, the thing for me, personally, is David Moyes never should have got the job. Mr. Defensive Plonker. Van Gaal passed it and, bordering on mad. And Mourinho finished, passed it. Defensive manager. Zidane, unlike all those three, is an attacking manager. He's a modern manager, and he's had very, very recent success. And yes, he had bits of money to spend at Real Madrid, but you don't get. It's not like you get a packet of crisps to spend at Manchester United. How much has Mourinho had to spend? Van Gaal had a lot to spend as well. So people saying, well, he managed good players at Real Madrid. Well, he's going to have good players at Manchester United. I think we forget this. I mean, Paul Scholes was talking about this. He did a Radio 5 Live interview, and Paul Scholes said that and I've said this, and a few of you said this, but Paul Scholes basically said when he looks at someone like Anthony Martial, yeah, he might his demeanour might wind a few fans up, but the reality is he needs a run of games. He needs a run of games, and he actually said the words that he's the sort of player that if he goes to another club, I think he'll be sensational, and I don't want that to happen. I want him to be sensational for Manchester United, but he needs a run of games. And then he mentioned Rashford, and he mentioned Sanchez a little bit, but it's more relevant to Rashford and Martial. And he said they'll have a good game, they'll have one good game, or they'll have, and then the next game they only get 60 minutes, and if they're not doing well, they're pulled off, and then you don't see them again for ages. And that's very, very true. And Paul Scholes is spot on about that. But my point is that, yeah, we know what Mourinho's done to Rashford and Martial, and it's not been that great. And I think it's massively ironic now that Mourinho bought a player in January that many people, if they thought he was going to play on the left, would have said we don't need him. We thought he was going to play on the right, Alexis Sanchez. How ironic is it that he bought Alexis Sanchez in January when Martial was playing fantastically well. He'd won 3 Player of the Months out of 5. Rashford, Lingard, Pogba, all 4 of those players, since Sanchez has come in, their form has gone off a cliff. And now Sanchez has fell out with Mourinho. So the player that he bought that we never really needed, that ruined 4 other players, is now ruined himself and apparently falling out with Mourinho. You just couldn't write it. But that is my point. We talk about, Zidane had good players at Real Madrid. You walk into Manchester United, you get an underperforming Pogba, you get an underperforming Martial, you get an underperforming Rashford, an underperforming Sanchez, an underperforming Lingard, an underperforming Lukaku, an underperforming Bailly, all these top, an underperforming Fred, because let's be honest, why did we spend £50 million on Fred to put him on the bench? Pereira. There's so many players that are underperforming in that Manchester United team. that would be very, very good players under the right sort of manager. So I think, obviously he would spend a bit of money, but I think he'd come in and do an absolutely fantastic job for Manchester United. And I'm very, very encouraged that Zidane is sort of sat there, and the rumours are that he is sat there wanting to come to England, waiting for something to come up. Well, it's not going to come up at Liverpool, it's not going to come up at Man City, it's not going to come up at Chelsea, and Arsenal's not a very big club, and Spurs won't get rid of Pochettino. The job in England is Manchester United. 2 + 2 is 4. That's quick maths, and it's simply that is the case, and it's there to be done. If Manchester United want to do that deal is there to be done. Obviously, we've got Newcastle tomorrow. I think tomorrow night we'll be talking about a Manchester United win, and we may have to be a little bit more patient about when Mourinho goes. But the writing is on the wall as far as I'm concerned. Kian Roper has made a contribution. Thanks for that, Kian. He says, I see Zidane more as a contingency until we can get gigs later on when he leaves Wales. You know what, Kian? I think that is a fantastic comment. I think it deserves a like. I think it's a fantastic comment because what I want to see Manchester United fans do, and you can take it or leave it, it's up to you. Each your own. I want us to get out of this mentality of, and I saw it a lot with Jose Mourinho over the last 2 years, because obviously I want to talk about as well, just to throw something in there so I don't forget, so you can remind me. I do want to talk about what's gone wrong from the last international break to the one we're just about to go into, because if you look at it, the fall off is ridiculous compared to where we were, and let's dissect that a little bit. But what I was going to say before that is that when you look at Manchester United and when Mourinho was doing okay over the last couple of years, time and time again, I'd see it in the live comments. Do you see Mourinho staying over 3 years? He only ever lasts 3 years. Could he be a 5-year manager? Could he be a 10-year manager? And I think we as a club have become a bit obsessed with that as a fan base. How long's a manager going to be here? Can they be here for years? Even the board were obsessed with it. I mean, the sad thing is that if David Moyes had completed the contract that he was given, he'd still be United manager now. They gave him a 6-year contract. I mean, that was just that. You want examples of how stupid and naive our board are when it comes to footballing matters. There it is. But you know what? Sir Alex Ferguson was here for a very, very long time, and Wenger was there for a long time at Arsenal, but he was there too long. Sir Alex Ferguson wasn't at United too long. He could have gone for another 5 years. We probably would have had another 3 or 4 titles. But in the modern game, it's quite rare. And I'm not obsessed by this. I'm not obsessed with Manchester United having a manager for years and years and years. And I think if you spoke to a Liverpool fan, they'd probably think, well, we want Klopp here for a decade. And maybe he will be. But maybe next season, Liverpool will be, at the end of November, in mid-table. And it's like, he's lost it. It's time to go. Football changes so quickly now. And I don't care about how long the next manager's here for. We need the new manager. I think that everybody understands that. It's a case of when, not if. But if Zidane took the job or Pochettino took the job and they came in for a couple of years and they did really well and then they went off and then someone like Giggs did come in, I'm quite relaxed about that. So I'm not. That is not a criteria for me. That is not a criteria. How long is the next manager going to be here? Would Zidane be short term? That's not a problem for me. It really isn't. And I would take Zidane. I'd take Eddie Howe. I'd take Pochettino. I'd take any of those three over Mourinho at the moment for one reason only. They play a brand of football and they have a focus on the club's wider squad that Jose just doesn't have. United lose tomorrow and then hire Bruce, says Michael Percy. I'm absolutely convinced we're not going to win. We're not going to lose tomorrow. I really am. I care more about our club succeeding than I care about not being a sacking club, says Red Jedi. Exactly. I think that sort of feeds in quite nicely, Red Jedi, that we also see a lot of that, and I never really understand it. We don't want to be a sacking club. I think it's almost like a moral charity approach to take. We don't want to do that. We don't want to be like that. We don't want to be that corporate-minded football club. The reality is Chelsea have been a sacking club for the last 15 years and they've won a lot of titles because of it. Because when it starts to go wrong, they change it. Sometimes I think they do it a little bit soon. I thought the Ancelotti sacking was a bit premature, but it's proved right. They go and get the next big thing. And I think, United, why do we not want to be a sacking club? Why? Why don't we want to be a sacking club? Since when are we not a sacking club? The reality is we had Sir Alex Ferguson for a long time and we think we're not a sacking club. I'm not really interested in that. I want the club to be the best. Did you Pankaj says, did you thought of Man United should have signed Zidane when he was playing? I think anybody would have liked Zidane when he was playing. Very hard to do. Bruce, we don't want Bruce. If we draw, Jose gets the sack, says Rogvi ? I think he'll survive if we get a draw. He could get the sack if we get a draw, but I think he will survive. But for anybody who saw the press conference this morning, or if you haven't seen my press conference reaction, watch it after today, after this video. It's I just don't get it with Jose. However, there are some couple of things I do need to update you on. Ryan Giggs obviously earlier in the week said he didn't want Mourinho to be sacked. Paul Scholes has more or less said the same. Now that sounds a little bit different to what he said the other night when he said, "I'm actually surprised he's still in charge." And running his mouth off is embarrassing the club. Now, I don't know whether someone's had a chat with Paul Scholes. People today were saying maybe the Glazers have chucked him a bit of money to retract what he was saying. I don't think he's retracted what he was saying because, as I said, in the same subsequent interview, he's talking about Martial not getting a run of games, which is very damning of Mourinho. But what he also said is that he'd like Jose Mourinho to turn it around and prove what a great manager he is. That's what Paul Scholes said. And I think what he's doing is, Paul Scholes is a legend of Manchester United. If he was saying in the same interview, the manager needs to be sacked, you know what? I think as a fellow professional working in the industry, he probably realises that me saying he needs to be sacked, i.e. Paul Scholes, isn't a very constructive thing for the club. And I do agree with Paul Scholes. You know what? I've said this so many times. If I was Harry Potter, I'd get my wand out and I'd go, Hakuna Matata, or whatever. I think that was the one that killed people, wasn't it? Or maybe it was the Lion King film. But I'd use my wand. Izzy Wizzy, let's get busy. Keep with Sooty. It's got it on the download. And I would say Jose Mourinho, Paul Pogba, everybody starts playing great football. We win the league. Of course I would. I don't want Mourinho to go because I dislike the bloke. I mean, I don't like some of the things he said. But if he was offering us the football that we want, and the players were playing the football we want, and we started to win games again and be entertaining, of course I want it to work like that. And I think that's more or less what people like Scholes and Giggs are saying. What they truly believe, I would be amazed the footballing brains they've got, and the fact that they're United fans, and the fact that they're watching the same games that we are. I'll be amazed if in private they're not sat there going, I've been in football all my life, there's no way he's turning this round. But, publicly, whatever. Man United project is too good for Zidane to ignore, says Camilio10. Exactly. And let's look, we can be even-handed on this channel. We must be even-handed. And let's go back 2 years to when Jose Mourinho took over as Manchester United. And we were all saying the same thing. Mourinho was desperate to get the Manchester United job. What a project to take over. You've got this great club, one of the biggest clubs in the world, that Sir Alex Ferguson put on the map again. He won so many titles. He won Champions League. Then they gave it to Clown Moyes, who basically smashed it up and broke it down and ruined it. Then Van Gaal had a go and probably made it slightly better, but in some ways worse. But there is Manchester United, this amazing club. Of course Mourinho wanted it. It's the perfect job to take over. Taking it over from Sir Alex Ferguson would be very, very difficult because you've got to maintain what was done before. But because somebody messed it up after him, you can be the man who brings United back from the ashes. And I think Mourinho thought he was going to do that. I think he was like, I can't be Sir Alex Ferguson because I won't be over here for over 20 years, but I'm going to be the man who's going to put his own mark on Manchester United history. I'm going to be the man who gets them back on track. And that is still the task for, it doesn't look like it's going to be Mourinho, but whoever comes into Manchester United, they've got that massive opportunity for their CV to be, I was the person who came in to Manchester United and sorted them out. And for every failing manager, it becomes even more of a tick on your CV. So Zidane would look at the United job and he knows all about United. Of course he did. He's played against us for Juventus, for Madrid. He knows what United's all about. He knows David Beckham coming from United. He knows what we are. He knows what a great club we are. Ronaldo was here. He knows what Manchester United is, and he's done it at Real Madrid. And now, if he goes to Manchester United as still a very young coach and wins a Premier League with us, gets us back on track, he's got another tick in his CV. Maybe he does go after 3 years, but it's a massive job, an absolutely massive job. And we should never, as much as we do feel down, and I tweeted this out earlier, what a sad state of affairs that there's so many United fans on social media saying, I'm actually really looking forward to the Man City-Liverpool game. Even though I don't like either club, it's going to be a fantastic football game. And United are playing the same weekend. And the sad thing behind that is, I don't like Man City and Liverpool, but it's going to be a very interesting game to watch because they both play football, unlike our game against Newcastle, because we're crap. And that's wrong. We shouldn't be like that. But we are like that because there's something massively wrong with our club. We've lost our identity. We need it back. Jason cleverly says, get Zidane in now. And, let's see what happens. I hope it is going to happen. I think being French, with the French contingent we've got, it could be absolutely massive for us. But I also think he'd get the best out of someone like Fred as well. And obviously he's got the Spanish connection. So, you know, I think someone like Ander Herrera's still got a lot to offer this club. I really do. We'll not win the title or Champions League as long as Lukaku is our main striker, says Mohamed Azim. Well, this is the thing as well. I think there are some players in the current squad that fans are starting to feel they're not going to be quite good enough. And I think while Mourinho's here, Lukaku's always going to be our number 9. Whoever the next manager is, they might use Lukaku as well, but they might also think, he's not what I need as a number 9. He's not what I need. Or they might try and develop him in a different way. I'm massively excited about the change when it comes, but I can't tell you when it's going to happen. But what I did want to talk about was that when we look at the situation at Manchester United and we look at the international break we're just about to go into, and I firmly believe we will go into it with 3 points. If you go back to the last international break and you look at the difference between now and then, the last international break, obviously just before it, we'd lost to Brighton and Spurs, but we beat Burnley, and we went into that international break saying, look, against Spurs we played quite well, we were naive at the back. Against Burnley, we made over 20 chances. There's something for us to build on. Yes, we were all worried about Mourinho, but we were like, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's see what's going to happen. Maybe he can turn it around. We came back from the international break. We beat Watford. And we were like, oh, you know what? That was a good ground out result. We did quite well there. Then obviously we played Wolves, and we were, you know, young boys before that. Then we played Wolves. Played us off the park a little bit, got a draw, very lacklustre Old Trafford performance, very, very, very flat. Then in the midweek we played Derby, they played us off the park, they beat us on penalties. Then we went to West Ham, they beat us and played us off the park. Then Valencia got the draw, played off the park. So when you look at the results, actually we've only lost one game, alright, you can count Derby, of course you can, but the West Ham result. But it's flipped massively on what has effectively been a win, 2 draws, a loss on penalties and a loss to West Ham. It's flipped massively from where it was on the last international break. And the reason for that, I believe, is not only what's going on the pitch. I think what we've seen on the pitch, we've seen for the last 6-8 months, certainly since Christmas. We've seen these boring performances. Sevilla home and away, the final against Chelsea in the FA Cup, West Brom at home. These results we've already known about. And I think I personally think, thinking about this before I went live, I think there's probably 2 or 3 factors that have really switched things around. One would be the realisation that we're not going to have a title challenge in year 3, which we should have. 2 would be the fact that the football's not going to change, which we really needed to change. There needed to be that. There was that trust and there was that patience with Mourinho for this year, but now he's not changed it. And I think at the previous international break, he was like, yeah, we're going to play good football. He's come back and he hasn't. And then I think the third thing is that the Pogba situation, whilst it turned some United fans against Pogba, and I think some fans are still against Pogba, I think Mourinho lost a lot of his support in the Pogba situation. I think personally at the last international break, Mourinho probably retained anywhere between 70 and 80% of the fan base. I would say now he's probably only got about 20% of the fan base behind him, which is a 50% swing in 3 or 4 weeks, which, as I said, if it was an election campaign, that's abysmal. And it's not just about what's happened on the pitch. I think people are becoming impatient with, you know, like Paul Scholes said, his embarrassing comments in public. The Pogba thing was clearly a gamble to try and turn a lot of United fans against Pogba and use... I mean, remember, let's not forget, after the Watford game, you got the away fans going mad about Mourinho, really supporting him. He's throwing his coat, he's clapping the home fans. He had a big swathe of support. And for him to lose that over the last few weeks, there's so many things that have gone wrong. But he has lost it. I mean, I saw, was it Rob Dawson, ESPN journalist? He was on the BBC earlier on talking about, and he said, but I believe he was interviewed after the last weekend's game. Well, no, it couldn't have been. It must have been, maybe it was before the Valencia game, because it was outside Old Trafford. And he was like, at the moment, the Matchday fans back Mourinho. It's the social media fans that don't. And it's the Matchday fans that the club will take notice of because they're in the stadium. But... you know, we saw the fan cams after the game on Tuesday. You've seen fans who are clearly match-going fans on social media. They're not happy. And the swing has been a big swing. If you had any choice of manager to replace Mourinho, who would you get and why, says Stephen Featley. I think that any manager we go for is a risk. Drawty was tweeting this as well. He was like, it's a risk. Every manager we go for is a risk. And there's always an element of risk. I think if Manchester United could have the pick of anybody, and we almost can, because we're such a big club, we almost can. We're not going to get Pep from Man City. You're not going to get Klopp from Liverpool. You're not going to get Sarri from Chelsea, and would you want him? He's only just gone there, so he's not going to go. So there's some managers you can't get for circumstances, but most managers, if we're aggressive enough, we could get them. Having said all that, when I look, it's nothing to do with him being free. When I look at the situation, I think Zidane would, even if Zidane was at Real Madrid and potentially ungettable because he's at year 4, he's going for a Champions League. If I could have anybody I wanted and he was still at Real Madrid, I would probably say Zidane, because I would think, well, he is like the next Pep in a very different way. He is the one to take from a big club in Spain who's won Champions Leagues, who's playing good football. I would like him at Manchester United. So I think for me, Zidane is the one. I'd still stand by what I said the other night, even though Rance disagreed with me. I still do like the idea of getting our identity back. And I know he and some fans are like, it doesn't matter, why do we need our identity back? But I think I look at the bigger picture and I say, well, we do need our identity, because it's not just because of the manager. We need identity in the team, and we need identity above the board. And I think that bringing people in who know what the club's all about, and it could be Patrice Evra in with Zidane, that would do for me. I just want somebody who has recent success, knowledge of our club, who can get that across to the team and above. And I know we've got Michael Carrick, but Michael Carrick, I love Michael Carrick. I think he was one of the best midfielders we've ever had in my lifetime. But to be honest with you, Michael Carrick was there when we were poor under Moyes on the pitch. Michael Carrick was there on the pitch when we were poor under Van Gaal. And Michael Carrick's been on the pitch for Mourinho, and he's now off the pitch. I think he's got the potential to be a great coach, and he's such an intelligent footballer and a very intellectual person from what I've heard on interviews. But I'm not too sure that Michael Carrick really, whilst I think he's respected by everybody in the dressing room, I don't think Michael Carrick gets across to the dressing room the importance of the shirt in the way they need it to be. I think he knows the importance of the shirt, but that squad and the club above need to kick up the arse. We need somebody in that club who knows the identity of the club, but he's also passionate and vocal about it. And I think a Gary Neville, a Ryan Giggs, a Roy Keane, a Patrice Evra, a Rio Ferdinand, they're the sort of people I would like to see involved at Manchester United, because they know what we're about. And I do think we do miss that. But whether that's going to happen, I don't know. I like Laurent Blanc, Seamus Gilmour. I was going to say he would be my second one. I've spoken about Laurent Blanc for a long time. I've done my homework on him. A lot of you will go, Laurent Blanc, why do you want him? But when you actually dig down and look at him, I like him. What he did at Bordeaux, he won the title there. That doesn't happen a lot in France. He promoted youth. He plays good football. He's played at Barcelona. He's won World Cups. He's played for Manchester United. He knows the philosophy of United, of Barcelona. He is a good manager. I don't think United would gamble on him. It would be a gamble, but I'd be happy to take that gamble. Loads of people watching tonight. Please do drop a like on the video. I'm going to take some of your comments now. But yes, the Zidane thing is interesting. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new as well, by the way. I never ask for that. I never remind myself to ask that. But we do need passion, says Eyes Wide Open. We definitely do. Seamus Gilmour says, Keane got a top job. He would prove us all wrong. Well, Roy Keane sort of did have his chances, didn't he? Was he at Sunderland and Ipswich, and it didn't go well. But you know what I would say about that? These managers that go and manage championship clubs, it's ridiculously hard. You're not going to get massive amounts of money. They do get money, and Keane did have money at Sunderland, but Sunderland's a bit of a dead club. I'm sorry to say that, but it is. I think North East clubs in general struggle now because football's changed so much, and you do have clubs like Fulham who can spend the same money as Newcastle, but they can offer London living. I mean, are the top players in football going to want to go and play in Newcastle? They used to 10, 20 years ago. It could work because they had the money that maybe some of the others don't. But the Premier League has made Premier League clubs very rich. And if you're London based, it makes it a lot easier. So it was never easy for Sunderland to step down from Newcastle as well, isn't it, in relation to recent history and attraction. So it's not easy. It's not easy for them. But I don't know whether Roy Keane's a manager anyway. I think Roy Keane as an assistant would be brilliant to have as a second lieutenant. I'd love him at United. But, some people disagree with that. It's all about opinion. Zidane develops the youth and don't cry about acquisition, says Sam Musselman. And if Zidane comes, he will bring in Raphael Varane, increasing the French contingent at us. That will be great. And we need a football playing DM like Verratti, and we will be good to go, says Pratush Anand. Look, I think, and correct me unless I'm wrong, I think most of us would be patient with the next manager. This season's a write. I mean, the thing that I say is that if Mourinho could get us top 4 and then go in the summer, that's not the end of the world. It's not nice to think that we've got to wait 8 months and put up with this for 8 months. But the worst thing that could happen is if he stays until May and he gets his top 4 and then Woodward goes, I'm going to back you now. We can't have a year 4 of this. We can't have a year 4 because this season's dead. It's gone. We're not winning the title this year, and that's what it was meant to be all about. We're not winning the Champions League, not in a million years. And we're not winning the Carabao Cup because we're not in it. And we got to the FA Cup final last year, and you saw that, you can go to an FA Cup final and still lose it. So the season's pretty much dead, isn't it? I mean, it isn't because there's going to be lots of excitement in there, I suppose, but it is a bit of a dead season already, and we know it is. And that's why I think the opportunity is there to do something and let, the fans would be patient with somebody coming in and using it to rebuild. I don't think there's any United fan that thinks, well, if Mourinho gets sacked next month, whoever comes in, they're not going to win us the title. Their challenge will be to try and get us top 4. But I would be patient with that. If let's say if Zidane came in as Manchester United manager for the Chelsea game, part of me would be yeah, well, we can get top 4. But a large part of me would be like, if he doesn't get us top 4, then I'm not going to be turning on him because it's a massively hard job to come in. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Jurgen Klopp. He's the new king of the cup. Can't remember that video. But when he first came in, I think he came in around October time and they finished 8th. Even though he came in October. Because it's a massive overhaul. But patience will be the key, won't it? Mr. D7 has made a contribution. He says, thank you to Mark and the mods. Yes, the mods do a fantastic job, so thanks for that contribution, pal. Really appreciate it. Just to let you know as well, I'm not finishing up yet, but just to let you know that tomorrow we're playing Newcastle, so we'll be live at 4:30 with the team news. Then we've got fan cams, Flex and Rants are definitely at the game, and obviously we'll be interviewing other people as well, match reaction stream, so lots going on tomorrow for you. Fritz Phantom says Eddie Howe in. I would take Eddie Howe over Mourinho. Yes, I don't know about you lot, but I would. But it'd be a huge risk. It would be a huge risk. It really would. And I think United almost need the impossible for the next manager. We need someone we can trust, we can believe in, and somebody who's not going to give us doubts from the start. And there probably isn't anyone like that, because even if you got Zidane in, if we had a couple of bad results, I think people would start to worry and think, oh, maybe he can't do it in England. And if you got Eddie Howe in, you'd be like, maybe it's too big a step. And if you got Laurent Blanc in, maybe it's too big a move. So there is no guarantees with what happens next, but I don't think there's any guarantees with the guy we've got at the moment anymore. Johnny Drakowski says, Mark, he's a nice guy, but Blanc would bring us nothing. Ponderous, strategic, same old. High, pacey press and slick passing is the only game in town. See, that's why I wouldn't want Diego Simeone anywhere near the club, and he would be a consideration. I guarantee you, if United sack Mourinho and they take a little bit of time about it, Simeone will. I wouldn't be surprised if United went for Simeone. I don't think he'd take the job because Atletico Madrid have got a very good squad this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if United went for him. And yet again, it would be another pragmatic manager. We've got to go for what we're all about. The next manager's got to be somebody who promotes youth and plays attacking football. They're the two things that must happen. Gazel says Eddie Howe would be in over his head. I think he would be. I think it's too big a step. But having said that, he probably deserves a bigger job. I mean, how do these people get bigger jobs? You know, Sean Dyche, Eddie Howe. How do they get these big jobs? Because he's proved himself in the Premier League with a club that's got a capacity of about 20,000. And they're in the top half. He deserves a bigger job. I mean, I think maybe the next step would be a Spurs or maybe an Everton. But even them, they're always going for foreign coaches, aren't they? But this isn't the Eddie Howe show. Spinblade says, what would be your reaction if you heard that the team deliberately lost tomorrow's game to get rid of Mourinho? I would not be happy about that. I've already said this, and I will say this, and I will be fair to Mourinho here. If United lose the game tomorrow, obviously I think that probably could be the end of Mourinho, but you'll see in my match reaction a very, very angry Mark Goldbridge about the players, because I think tomorrow is not about the manager. Any idiot could manage Manchester United at home to Newcastle and win the game. If we lose tomorrow, we'll lose that game because of the players. Because Newcastle are not very good. We're at Old Trafford. They're right at the bottom of the league. They've got nothing like the players we've got. The players, even if you said to the players have all week off and then they come in tomorrow and you pick the team out of the hat, they should still win that game. It's on the players tomorrow, and if we did lose it, I think that would be a massive indication that they've thrown it to get rid of Mourinho, and that's why I don't think it'll happen. I think they'll win. I think professional pride will get us through tomorrow. I don't think it means Mourinho's staying in his job forever. As I said, I think we'll win tomorrow, we'll get beat by Chelsea, and then the demands again will come along that he needs to go. You know, we're in the hands of the board now. We're in the hands of the board, and inevitably, I think a change is going to come. It's just a case of when. Would I consider Claudio Ranieri, says Sergio? I don't know. I really don't know. I think Zidane's available. You go for Zidane, don't you? If the players drew the game, then they should all be fired. That would be disgraceful, says Apex Custom. I think what we will find out under a new manager as well is that we'll find out just who if there are any players who aren't good enough for us anymore. But I've seen this at Chelsea. In the last few years, Chelsea have been the prime example of a club where players down tools to get rid of a manager, and a new manager comes in and they normally go and win the league and the players are suddenly inspired. And I guarantee that'll happen with United. I think if Mourinho goes and we get a new manager in, I think you'll suddenly see an amazing Pogba, an amazing Martial, an amazing Lukaku, an amazing Matic. I purposely named Mourinho favourites and Mourinho non-favourites there because I think the whole club and the whole squad will be inspired by the change and the change in focus and the changing attitude. I would never say, "Oh, we'll see the real Pogba," because that would indicate that I think he's not trying under Mourinho. When I believe he is. I just think the system destroys him. The sooner the better for me. But I wouldn't say I'm relaxed about it, but I'm not expecting him to get the sack anytime in the next month. To be honest, I'm not. Graham Campbell says Giggs, Neville and Keane would be amazing. Yeah, I don't think it can happen though. I don't think it can happen. I've said before, obviously Roy Keane doesn't have a great relationship with Manchester United because of his fallout with Sir Alex Ferguson, so that would never happen, I don't think. And I also get the impression there's not a great relationship between the class of '92 and the board either. I don't know why. I just get that feeling. I might be totally wrong, but I just get that feeling. So I don't think it will ever happen. Arsene Wenger, God, no, that would be not good. Eino Beat says Mourinho has already covered his back if United lose tomorrow, saying how good Newcastle have played against the Topsies. Yeah, you can't get played off the park against West Ham and then lose at home to Newcastle. You can't survive that, And also, we'd probably be dropping down to about 13th or 14th if we lost tomorrow. It's not going to happen, but if it did happen, I think he'd have to go. And Merit Odisi says, if Zidane became the next manager, every player will respect him. But the problem is the English. I think Koulibaly and Skriniar will fit United. I love Skriniar. I absolutely love Skriniar. If anyone's watching my FIFA career, which was on That's Football today, he's in my team. I love Skriniar. I think he's absolutely fantastic. Anyway, I'm going to end it there. I'm not feeling that well tonight. I've got my Lemsip. I want to be better for tomorrow. I want to be on it for the game tomorrow. Please do drop a like on the video. Loads of people watching tonight. Loads of people getting involved in the channel, which is absolutely fantastic. Really appreciate your live comments. Just to let you know, on Monday night, it won't be Skype anymore, it's going to be Discord, so that's going to be good fun, which means we'll be able to do more shows because it's far more reliable than Skype. I've been doing a bit of testing, so we'll be doing more and more call-in shows, which is going to be fantastic. Really excited about that. So drop a like on the video, make sure you subscribe if you're new and get involved, and give us your thoughts below. What are you thinking about the manager? Who would you go for? Is there anybody a bit left field that we're not considering? Because I'll tell you what, if and when Mourinho goes, I wouldn't be surprised if we went for Diego Simeone, and anything is possible. We've had a final contribution here from Jimbo74. He says, Mark, do you think if Mourinho goes, do you think they need to get rid of Woodward also? Ed Woodward will never leave the club of Manchester United. He was instrumental in the purchase of the club for the Glazers. They love Ed Woodward. In a business sense, he's very good. I think what needs to happen with Woodward is Mourinho goes, new manager comes in, director of football comes in, and Woodward focuses on the business side of things, of which he is very good. And then you've got a director of football who's that bit between. Of course, I'd still love the Glazers not to be our owners, because we're never going to move away from the fact that we've got American owners who, and it doesn't matter about they're American, they could be Indian, Australian, but they are American owners who've got no interest in Manchester United, no interest in football, who bought us on debt because they knew they could make a lot of money out of us, and all they're bothered about is how much money they make out of us. So I would change them owners now, because I would love to have owners who actually care about the club, in a footballing sense. But I don't think Ed Woodward would go anywhere. Anyway, interesting day tomorrow. Some of you think we're going to lose, and that could be the big change that we need. I think we're going to win tomorrow. We're going to have to put up with it for a little bit longer in relation to Mourinho's reign. But one thing's for sure, it'll be a very interesting game. Looking forward to watching it and sharing it with you. I'll see you tomorrow on the United Stand. I'll be live at 4:30. Have a great start to your weekend, and peace out. Peace out. But seriously, thanks everyone for watching. You make the show what it is. I love it. Love the live shows. So keep getting involved, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.